We're not looking at social influences just in a general way when it comes to human resource management. We're looking at things that will specifically affect human resource management. So, what changes in society will affect workers? We're going to look at changing work patterns, so things like casual workers and things like that. And we're going to look at increasing or improving living standards and what effect that has on human resources. So to start with, we're looking at changing work patterns. The first thing that you need to do if you're answering a question about this is you have to say, what are the changes to work patterns? So not just, we're going to look at advantages and disadvantages soon, but what are the changes in the first place? And there's 5 real, the big main changes that are happening in Australia. There's been an increase in the number of casual workers, and that process has been called casualisation. And try to use the 2 S's rather than S and the Z. The increased use of casual workers, the increase in female employment, which has been happening slowly in the last few years. We're looking at the increase in the number of different jobs during a worker's life, rather than just, I started working when I was 15 and did the same job at the same factory for 40 years. We're looking at having a different range of jobs over our lifetimes now. The 4th thing is cultural diversity in the workplace, so different nationalities and different religions and different beliefs and all that, and the effect that has. And there's also been an increase in the age of the population, but there's also soon going to be a high number of Gen Ys, so Generation Ys, in the workplace. So we're looking at the changes that are going to affect human resources there. But I only want to go through 3 main ones and look at the advantages and disadvantages for the human resource managers. So we're only going to look at these top 3, starting with the use of casual workers. The advantages for human resources, obviously having an increased use of casual workers is going to increase flexibility for the business. You can hire casual workers quickly, you can fire them very, very easily compared to full-time workers. There's no need for redundancy or anything like that. You can just get rid of them, just say they're no longer needed. So there's a lot more flexibility. The problem that comes with increasing casualisation is that workers are less motivated. They're not really connected to the business for long periods of time. So they're just going to go, you know what, I'm not really that, interested in making sure that the business has, a very long life or a good reputation or anything like that, because I'll be out of here next week. It doesn't matter. The second trend, so the increase in female employment, obviously the advantages include having more workers available. So human resources now has, many more people that they can choose from. And obviously women are also smarter than men. So if the job requires brains, then the women are going to be better. I wouldn't write that in the exam. The disadvantages, even though there's a big list there, it's not really, serious disadvantages. Human resources will just have to look at different ways of motivating female workers. And I'm just saying, things like praise will go down with women very well. But I'm not saying, don't pay them the same amount or anything like that. You just need to look at different ways of motivating and subtle differences. Not like, whoever is the best salesperson is going to get a free box of tampons. I'm talking about subtle ways of motivating female workers, like the praise, of course appropriate praise, that, male workers may just go, oh yeah, whatever, and just not care about it. There's also the issue of having to deal with maternity leave, because most women are potentially going to get pregnant. So it does become an issue for the human resource department. I'm not saying that it's a problem for the business, the business can just hire someone else and all that, but it does become an issue for the HR department. And there's also the possibility that human resources are going to have to respond to sexual harassment claims. Though there are still sexual harassment claims, men on men sexual harassment. My friend was one of them. It's not like, the women create these issues and, how dare they? These issues are just there. So human resources does have to respond to them properly. The third trend, all different people having different jobs during their lives. Obviously, the advantage is that these people are going to come with a greater range of skills and life experience. They're not just going to have worked in the same place for the last 20 years, and now they're looking for somewhere to work the next 20 years, and they've only got one set of experiences. They might be, I was this, and then I was that, and then I was that, and that actually comes in handy when you're trying to solve a problem. Having someone thinking outside the box, so someone who may have done a different job in the past, they might say, hey, you know what? we had, an issue like this in a different industry, and this is what we did. And someone might not have thought of that in the business. The disadvantage, though, is that it's more difficult to maintain workers and avoid separation, avoid them, leaving, quitting, than it used to be. So it's difficult to say, you know what, you have chosen this job, so you are going to stay at this job. People know that they can just move on to another job, move on to an entirely different career, and nothing's really going to stop them. So it does become more difficult to maintain workers if the workers know that they can leave. When it comes to living standards, increasing living standards are going to raise the workers' expectations. Now, I've got that in red because for a business, higher expectations from workers is not good. Right? Those expectations about what they're entitled to, so higher wages, flexible working arrangements, those things are bad for the employer because they're going to cost money and they're going to cause problems and they're going to cause headaches, right? So the business, although they can refuse for a little while, they can say, you know what, yeah, I know that other people are getting paid more, but you're just not getting paid more. Eventually, they're probably going to have to give in so that they can attract the best workers, right? So that's why a lot of businesses are either choosing to increase their working conditions or have higher wages. Some businesses are choosing to outsource the work to countries with lower living standards, because countries with lower living standards, so if you just pick India, as everyone always does, countries with lower living standards, you can get pretty much the same job if it's not too difficult. You can get pretty much the same job done for maybe like a tenth of the price. So why wouldn't you, as a business, decide to do that? I know it's all about corporate social responsibility and doing the right things and keeping Australians in work and all that, but at the end of the day, if you can get it done for 10% of what, or 30% or 50% of what you're paying now, then it's a good business choice as long as you can keep the quality up. So higher living standards have actually led to people losing their jobs because they're just getting outsourced instead. So there are some positives to higher living standards, but a lot of these jobs that are getting outsourced kind of show you the disadvantage to the workers of having those higher expectations of what they're supposed to be receiving for the work that they do.